Welcome to another episode of The American Dream, the only show that combats negative media. In each show, we have inspirational national interviews meant to bring us together, to lift us up in a very bipartisan way. What you're going to see on today's show are some of those interviews. Also, in every program, in each city, we integrate in the best local market experts to let you know what's happening in your own backyard. You're going to absolutely love today's show. Don't forget, while you're watching us on cable, you can also check us out online, follow us on social media as we do the show here today. Let's get the American Dream started right now. Every single day, you are consumed with information. With the 24/7 negative news cycle and a pop culture that's polluting the airways, all selling out for the ratings game. Well, guess what? There's a more positive way to look at life. You live in the greatest city in the greatest country on the planet. And every day with our elite network of professionals, our goal is to educate, empower, and engage. And now it's time to fight for your American dream. Is the American dream dead? That's going to be the word on our show here today. You know, you hear this question a lot. It's put out there by the mainstream media. Maybe you wonder it yourself. Maybe a college student with debt. Maybe you're facing challenges at work or whatever it might be. The question is, do you believe the American dream is dead? I believe that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, not only as individuals, but as a country as a whole. Look, millions of people went into this country for a reason. Now, that's not a political statement. Whether you believe in a wall or not, that's political. But the fact that millions want in, not out, that's a good problem to have. And if you don't want to stay here, you have the freedom to actually leave. That is a country that operates on freedom. And I believe that the American dream is alive and well as long as you put good thoughts into your head. So when you tune into the show, I want to remind you, we're not here to divide you like the negative media. That's how they generate their ratings and ultimately their money. We're not owned by a network. We're commercial free. We're unscripted. And we're supported by partners that we've flown all across the country to bring onto the show as experts out of your city. So when we talk about things like the American dream, I believe it's alive and well, but it's all about what you put in between your own ears. That's what our show is predicated on, and that's what we're going to get today, and that is the word on the American dream. If you want to comment, love to hear from you on social media, good, bad, ugly. Please follow the show, breathe oxygen into our positive story. That being said, let's go ahead and start this show and all the interviews right now. All right, welcome back to the American Dream. The world has changed, and nothing illustrates that better than the fact that we're doing a Facebook Live right now for all of you watching online, and this will also roll into our national show of the American Dream. And also, with probably the best guest for that, friend of mine now, Tony Giordano. You are the founder of Giordano Industries, which is an accumulation of several companies. Let's talk about the things you have going on, man. So I see you all over these national networks being interviewed on everything from real estate to Bitcoin to business development, and you have a massive following on social media. It's a crazy world we're in.
Yeah, it's definitely a crazy world, and it's all kind of come to me just in the last few years with the explosion of online media. That's kind of what led to all these different ventures and the power of social media marketing and video marketing.
How do you navigate that noisy world?
You know, I always try to compare social media and online media in general as the words online presence, just overall having a huge presence online, and comparing it to real world for decades before social media. So what I do is I compare it to what was it 30 years ago. 30 years ago, it was being invited to the barbecue or the chamber networking event, but now I can just do that online. So I connect with the right people and realize that it's just the modern day living room. It's the modern day table surrounding where we're all just talking, but we're just doing it in a comment thread on some post on Facebook or Instagram or any network. And then the noise is, if it's the modern day neighborhood today, social media, then what's the modern day mailbox? Social media, the news feed. And what's filled in our mailboxes at home? Junk mail. And what's filled in the news feed now 10 years later? Junk. And so how do you separate and find great content out there that separates you from the noise and the junk, and it's what people want. And that's what I've personally done, and that's what I try to teach others to do.
Yeah, so explain your coaching model and how you're helping others.
Mostly business professionals. Okay. I educate two sides of my world. I educate the client when we're marketing their property for sale on why the power of social media is so important.
So we're talking real estate on this niche?
Exactly,
Yep.
and getting them to understand the power of it, but also educating them, because if I'm talking to a client who owns their own law firm, then what I'm teaching that person that I can do to push their listing and sell it, they can turn around and benefit their law firm by doing it to the same fact and boosting and promoting their law firm and demographically targeting with social media. But then on my coaching side, I educate my peers, my colleagues. I educate other real estate agents the power of it, how to execute it, how to understand it better, but then also outside the industry. Insurance agents, small business owners, whoever is in the business of the more people they meet, the better their business does. It's literally the exact same approach.
So the other day, you and I were at a $45 million listing up in LA, and you weren't even talking to me, but I eavesdropped on a conversation you were having where you were discussing, so we just talked about social media and putting content out there, but you were discussing something like LinkedIn and the ability to connect with people on a really high level. Explain how it actually can bring a deeper connection relationally, even if you're not face-to-face with people.
So all of the networks have a niche. And I call them the modern day magazines. Like wherever you were pushing your brand or promoting your brand or listing 20 years ago in some magazine locally, and you had to reach a certain demographic by being in that magazine because older people read it versus younger people read that one. Today, the modern day magazines are all the social media networks. And so what I try to do is identify each of their niche and compare it to 30 years ago. So Facebook is the social network. Instagram is the visual network. Twitter is the news network, and LinkedIn is the professionals network. Wow. LinkedIn is the modern day resume, and if you go in there purposefully to build relationships with people outside of your own profession, you know, example, the average real estate agent has 380 connections on LinkedIn, and 370 of them are their local competitors in that city. They're not getting any business from them. They're not building relationships. But why aren't we building relationships with the CEOs, the CFOs, the COOs of the biggest corporations in our surrounding city that house the most employees, AKA homeowners? And why aren't we getting in front of them and connecting with them? And LinkedIn is by far the most powerful network out there when it comes to business. You know,
it's fascinating about what you say. So I just got a New York City meeting with Gary Vaynerchuk, and one of the things he discussed was, and you just hit it on the head, all of these are different platforms. To do the same content on those platforms is the wrong way to do it. He also mentioned the fact that you might be dealing with someone who's in a different mood on the certain platform they're on. Sometimes people want sound bites, sometimes people want to watch a 4-hour Star Wars episode. So dealing with the moods of people in those different platforms is a critical element to how you build that brand and how you market it.
Absolutely
switch gears real
critical.
quick. Tell us about your book.
So in 2011, my book, I was writing my book, the first one, obviously pretty skinny. I was writing the first book, The Social Agent, and I didn't realize what would come out of it. I was speaking nationally for the real estate industry. It was before I started going into multi-industry, just teaching others how I was capturing so much business from social media. And somebody had said, you should write a book, just as a guide to make people, you know, make it easy for them to understand. And I said, okay, so sure enough, I wrote the book, it released in 2012. And with the book came even more speaking. And with more speaking, the book ended up becoming an Amazon bestseller nationally and internationally. And then for the past couple years, I've been writing the second edition, which releases in 2 weeks. And it's just called The Social Agent 2.0. And that one just goes much deeper. It's 3 times as thick into the technique and strategy like you were referring to on what Gary teaches as well as what I teach.
Find this guy. He is the man. Tony, thanks for coming on The American Dream. All right, more of the show coming up next. All right, welcome back to The American Dream. We got a really good feel-good story. These are 2 people that are just doing amazing things for our military. Joining us on the show, we have Sergeant Major Walter Valentine. You are now retired, but first time I've had you on this show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
More importantly, thank you for your service. Very much appreciated.
You're welcome.
And Laura Dietz, you're the founder and trustee of the Iwo Jima Monument West, that as a project that you're working on raising funds for. Thank you for being here as well.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Well, Sergeant Major, can you share with us a little bit of your service? Can you share with our audience?
Well, I'm the last of the 3 war vets. I've served 2.5 years in South Pacific, World War II, Korea, and 2 trips to Vietnam.
So a lot of the things you guys are doing now is helping those who have served. In fact, I know that you've even referenced the fact that you're helping millennials understand the military. You got this big project that you're working on. So bring us up to speed on that, Laura.
Well, the project is meant to both educate and inspire all Americans about one of the greatest stories in American history. And that is embodied in this monument here that stands at Arlington National Cemetery. That is the United States Marine Corps War Memorial. But it's more than that. It took on a character of its own with all the American people in World War II. It was the most popular image in all of World War II. And we felt that we should have this at Camp Pendleton for several reasons. 1, we have nothing like it in the West. 2, the Marines trained at Camp Pendleton, which was founded, of course, after Pearl Harbor, including Val here. And what some people don't realize is the Marines were all out in the Pacific. They were never in Europe. All in the Pacific, taking island by island by island against a very fanatical enemy.
Sure. So as far as this project goes, where are you at in the process of building it? Where's it going to be? What do you expect it to look like? How do we bring this thing to life?
Well, we started 5 years ago. And the first thing we had to do was to find out what the rules were for doing this. It's called a gift through the DOD. And the Marine Corps had to give me a site, which they did. And then we got architects out there bidding. And we're hoping, for the sake of all of our Iwo Jima veterans, that it'll be out of Camp Pendleton shortly, off to DOD for the final sign-off. At which time then we expect to be able to raise the $10 million.
What are some of the things that we can do to help with the raise?
Well, they can go to marinesoniwojima.com, and that will lead them to our website where they can donate online. And the beauty of our project is that for everyone that donates, we are going to have their name listed in an electronic kiosk at the site.
So tell us where your passion comes from and some of the things you have going on outside of the actual monument.
Well, I call myself a passionate patriot, and it all started with 9/11. I wanted to be able to do something myself, and as an empty nester, I wanted to support the Marine Corps because you were close to Orange County. So it all started after 9/11. My city adopted a particular battalion in the 1st Marines here. And from there, I began to understand what the military culture is about, and also what happens to the families and the sacrifices that they make. And I say sacrifice in capital letters on the Goodyear blimp, because working with the wounded war families in particular has been an enormous eye-opener.
How about yourself, Sergeant Major? When you're not doing TV shows and things like this, how are you staying active?
I call it a circuit. I get up at about 7 o'clock. I don't have to get up at 5 anymore.
Good.
And,
sleep in. You've earned it.
I get my Baileys and my coffee and go out in the patio, and then I jump into my truck, go down to the flower fields in Carlsbad. There's a sidewalk that overlooks the field in the ocean. And I jog and walk 1.5 miles, 7 days a week. And then in the afternoon, I go down to the gym and work out for about an hour and a half. And my family, I have 5 daughters, a son, I have 12 grand and 26 great.
Okay, well, we thank you very much for your service.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for your efforts behind this. I see this as being something that'll be iconic, not just for San Diego, but for the entire country when they drive down our main highway, the 5. So good luck with it. Let us know how we can help you, whether it's raising funds or just bringing awareness to it. Good luck with everything you have going on.
Awareness and raising funds, but it'll be the first, shall we say, Washington, D.C. monument that will now finally be coast to coast.
Awesome.
The first. Thank you.
Thank you for your service. All right, good luck with all those grandkids. More of the American Dream coming up next. All right, welcome back to The American Dream. Great subject for our show, women's empowerment. Joining us for the first time, Sarah Panis, who's the founder of Gritty Movement Consulting.
Hi.
What's up?
How are you?
Good to have you on the show.
I'm stoked. Thanks for having me.
So you got a pretty interesting story. You actually have a background in finance.
Yeah.
And not only finance, but leadership. You were the COO of a company. Now you're involved with Gritty Movement Consulting. So
Yep.
kind of give us the storyline to what got you here.
Yeah, absolutely. Really glamorous beginnings. When I was a junior in college, I decided to get a part-time job because I was at USD and I was in their business school undergrad program. So I was like, let me just get, wet my teeth a little bit. And I got a job as a receptionist at a mortgage company. And
Yeah.
it was brand new. I think they had only been in business for a couple years, super small, like kind of shady office. And I was like, all right, this is cool, this is fine. They work with my schedule. So I stayed on with them. As I was there through my last 2 years of college, they grew rapidly. This was in 2010.
Okay.
And so by the time I graduated, I was like, I'm going to stay here full time. I was the operations manager. And then by the age of 23, which was about 6 months after I had graduated, I was the COO.
Wow.
Yeah, I kept the
so
promotion.
my story is a little different, but similar.
Really?
So also a junior in college.
Okay.
Job as a telemarketer at a
Oh.
mortgage company.
Yeah, we had a
Loan
full
officer,
telemarketing
turned, built a company up to 300 people.
Yes.
A little bit before 2010, and I didn't graduate. I'm a college dropout.
Oh, yes.
So yeah,
That just makes you, like, even
so many
better.
similarities,
Yeah.
yet like yours are cooler and more successful
No,
than mine.
they hired me to change the water filter. That's
Oh.
like really what an open mail. That was like my main job duties.
Hey,
And then
it got
I
you.
just impressed them,
Yeah.
That's how I got
So
the promotion.
now you have this thing going on, Gritty Movement.
Yeah.
You're very passionate about it. I know. Where's the passion come from?
Man, so obviously in the mortgage industry, you're familiar with the space. It's
a hustle.
People don't really look like me and act like me, especially when you're a senior level officer of a 200-person company. We were meeting with vendors and going to conferences. And I definitely felt alone in the space. I would come into a room and people would, not really think that I had anything intelligent to say, thought I was, someone's note taker, a secretary. So
Good old boys club? Is that what you're
it was
getting
a
at? No, I
little bit
kinda
of a
get
good
it.
old boys
Yeah.
club. Yeah.
It's like that.
Right. And so luckily I worked for a company that was very diverse and really appreciated, a diverse range of opinions. So I was able to thrive there, but I just felt alone in the space, and I realized that, if I feel like this, there's a lot of people that are probably like me. And I struggled to find mentors. I struggled to find resources that spoke to who I was as a leader.
Interesting.
So not really a lot for young women in leadership, not a lot for minority women in leadership. And that was something that I was like, hey, I feel like based on my personal experiences, managing a company of 200 people, managing teams of people that were much older than me, managing men, managing remote employees, it was something that I could really speak to. And so I wanted to be a part of, advancing women in leadership.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What I love about it is it seems like successful entrepreneurs, a lot of their success comes from things that they went through and turning that into a solution for others, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like that's what you've done. So Gritty Movement is, tell us what it is.
Yeah, so we are a leadership development firm, and we do management consulting as well.
Okay.
We really focus on strategic team building, employee engagement, expansion goals for women-run companies.
So give me an example.
Yeah, so basically one of our companies, they wanted to start a branch in LA, so we helped them through that. We helped them hire. One of our companies wanted to franchise their business for the first time, and it was kind of like a small studio, and they didn't really know where to go from there, so we kind of helped them branch out, hire, and do those things.
Okay, so we're talking about scaling businesses, right?
Yeah,
So
from an HR employee engagement perspective.
okay, so give some advice, right? I want to make sure that we're giving something of value to the people who are tuned in here. So,
Yeah.
Somebody who is our target here? Is it business owners?
Yes, young women in business
Okay.
owners, female-founded companies. Yeah.
Okay, so how to
mostly
kind of take
millennial
things to
run.
that next level. So give some advice to young female business owners.
Yeah, I would say that you need to identify what your main goal and what your intention is as a leader. So
Okay.
that gets lost a lot of the times. As women in leadership, oftentimes we get lost in trying to be friends with our employees or trying to be well-liked, and we sometimes lose the vision, or we lose the direction of the bigger goal of making sure that the company is successful and profitable and thriving, and sometimes friendships and stuff like that come in the way. So I would say being really intentional about all of your relationships with your employees, with your managers, with your co-founder, knowing where you're going and where you all fit in there, and knowing what your strengths are.
Removing emotion a little bit,
Yeah,
being more strategic. You said intentional.
Yeah, being intentional. And I think that one of the biggest things too is recognizing what your personal strengths are and where your weaknesses lie, because that is one of the cruxes of leadership, knowing how to harness other people's strengths and knowing when you should do something yourself and this is what only you can do in your company and what things you should delegate.
What's the
to
best
others.
way to identify what your strengths are? Some people are confused, don't really know. Is there any
true.
advice on how to really pin down? Like for me, have you ever heard of a DISC test?
Yes,
So
I
I'm
just posted about that on
So I'm like a high D,
Instagram today.
but like a very low C, which means I suck at accounting, but I'm a good marketer.
Right.
So how do you identify those things with some of your clients?
Yeah, well, I always, when I first work with clients, I have them take the 16 personalities test, which has a really cool section about leadership and who you are in the workplace. So that's helpful if you're just blissfully unaware and you like need somewhere to start. I always say to ask people that you're really close with. So give them, permission to be,
feedback,
give them permission to be 100% real with you and say, what are my blind spots? What do I suck at? What do people have what is the common problem that people might have with me, and go from there and be conscious about developing yourself in those areas.
Awesome. Speaking of goals, what are yours?
Yeah, what are my goals?
Yeah, when you sit here in a year from now and we're looking back on Gritty Movement and the things that you've done, what have we accomplished?
Yeah, I want to migrate a little bit away from the one-on-one consulting into the digital resources realm. So it's not lost on me that my target is all online, and that's where they are, that's where they consume information. And for me, when I was a COO, Google was my mentor. Like I literally Googled everything and did everything for free.
Yeah.
And I wasn't someone who was gonna hire a consultant to come in. So while I am fortunate to have really close client relationships, get to work in the nitty gritty of businesses every day, I definitely want to make more content, put some more out there for people that maybe aren't at that space yet to hire a consultant.
Speaking of digital, your Instagram handle is?
@Gritty Movement.
@Gritty Movement.
Yeah.
Follow this gal. She's awesome. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
We'll have you on again.
Absolutely.
So one time good. We'll have you as a repeat offender.
Okay.
Keep giving out good information.
All right,
Good luck.
I can't
know you got
wait.
some events coming up, so good luck
do.
with everything.
Thank you so much.
All right. More of the American Dream coming up next. All right, welcome back to the show. Now, this is an awesome guest. If I'm going to be authentic here, I got to let you know I've known this gal for years. She is a friend of mine. When I met you, you weren't a best-selling author, though.
I was not.
Yeah, so
Lots
Kelly
happened.
Resendez joins us on the show, executive with Paramount Equity, influencer, got this new book, Big Voices, which is a top seller with Amazon.
Yeah.
Staying busy.
Yes.
So catch us up. So lead me to the passion that caused you to write the book in the first place.
Yeah, just getting into the personal growth world, it was an opportunity for me to awaken and really figure out who I was. And in doing that and going on that journey, I realized that there were just a lot of mistakes that I made along the way that I wanted to share with other people so that as they start to write a new story for themselves, they don't go through the same negative experiences that I did. And, we're in a state where people, including women everywhere, are suffering at a level that we haven't seen before. And,
How so? I'm obviously not a woman, right? So help me better understand.
Yeah, well, the ugly truth is more women are on psychiatric medication than ever before. Obesity is at a rise. Women are experiencing stress in the workplace and a lack of balance that we've ever seen. And when we couple all those things together, we're just in a state where people just aren't experiencing a high level of joy. And a lot of that suffering isn't what we see. We see the smiles on social media.
Right.
And then when you get behind the scenes, we see women that are just really not sleeping at night, not taking care of themselves, and not feeling fulfilled.
Well, a lot of what you see on social media, I think, is a catalyst for that because it makes everybody's else life look amazing, and you're having these, maybe in many cases, normal struggles, life struggles that are spiraling out of control just on how you think it should be. That's kind of one of the, social media I love, and you also hate for reasons like that. So tell us about the book. So it references the journey that you've been through to get to this point in your life, and you're sharing it with others. So tell us a little bit about what's going on in the book.
Yeah, so it really is an invitation to women to just become more mindful of who they are, learn how to think differently. So I give them strategies. When you really think about it, we believe that happiness should just come. And that's not the case. For those of us that experience true joy, it is work every single day. We have to wake up and prepare ourselves to face, whatever it is that we do within the day. And so I give women strategies that include my thought management strategy.
Yeah, give us some examples of the strategies.
Yeah, so it really separates your big voice, which is your most authentic self, from your little voice, which are all of the, thoughts that are disempowering, like
fears,
I'm not
doubts.
enough, and fear, anxiety, stress, hopelessness, things like that, depression. And so you're really able to sort and be able to see the difference between your big voice and your little voice.
Well, sometimes the little voice probably feels like the big voice.
It does.
I would imagine.
It does. We're overcome with it, and we just can't see that it's not who we are. And so giving people strategies where they can just quickly just dismiss some of those things, I wish there was a way to avoid them completely.
Sure.
I tried that. I thought that I could slay the little voice, and it never worked. And so I've just learned to live with it and be able to overcome it so that I stay in joy the majority of the time.
And I know that yours is very much focused on women, and that's kind of your niche, and you're going on an awesome trail. These are man things too. I'm happy to admit the little voice, right? That subconscious chatter, those doubts, those fears. That's not necessarily tied to a gender. So, man, maybe you should pick up this book as well. What is your goal with the book? Where do we go next as Kelly Resendez?
Yeah, so I really want to be able to speak to more women so that we can rise up and make a bigger difference in the world. We're so powerful, and we don't give ourselves that credit. When we think about whether it's the food industry or the medical industry or the pharmaceutical industry, we're so powerful to be able to change many things that would just really make things better here in the United States. And so it gives women just the tools that they need to be able to get there so that we can start advocating for better, standards within the food industry or health industry or other places, because a lot of times we just sit back and we don't take action and we complain about what's going on. And so I believe that through this book and empowering women, whether it's to take higher leadership positions or be more vocal about what needs to change, that it will really make an impact in this world.
Yeah, you're starting a movement, but you're starting it from ground zero, right? The individual. And you're helping people become more thoughtful, mindful, conscious. I think it's awesome. So Big Voice, hold it up for us.
Yes.
Big Voices.
Big Voices, and you
bestseller.
can find it on Amazon and also on my website, bigvoicesrise.com. I get wisdom out once a week that just helps men and women be able to live.
I'm listening to every word you're saying. I'm like,
joyful life.
Yep, little voice. But I know that you've really niched to, you're a leader in business, and now you're taking it out, helping people all across the country. I think it's awesome. This is why she's a friend of mine. I hope you buy the book, Rising Star, that's kind of already there. Good stuff. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you, Craig.
All right, that's all for today's episode of The American Dream, where our goal is to educate, empower, and engage your American dream, combating that negative media. Look, you heard a lot of great information. If you want to comment on the show, I'd love to hear from you on social media. But also, you heard from some of the best professionals in your city, mortgage, real estate, finance. Look, if you have questions on this stuff, my number one job is to be your consumer advocate. Shoot me an email. I would love to hear from you, Craig@craigsewing.com. You have questions, you need introductions. No strings attached. That's not how we built this thing. It's all to give back to you and empower your American dream. That's all for today's show. We'll see you next time.